What's happening, YouTube? It's your homie S.DeathTF coming back to you with another video. And today's video is all about overwhelming advantage Shockwave. So I'm playing a character from Wave 2, a character from Wave 3, obviously, and a character from Wave 4. So, yeah, the deck seems very cool and it seems very promising. Of course, it focuses on trying to get your overwhelming advantage play out, but at the same time, the deck can function well without it. So if your opponent's disrupting you, Shockwave's still going to be 11 attack with his 2 gamma launchers, etc., and still take cards from your opponent's hand as a bonus and, you know, play cards off the top of your deck, you know, and so on and so forth. And the deck actually has a lot of cool synergy together. It heals a lot, and, you know, it's kind of like mixed, but it's still on the, you know, blue side. But I can't wait to show you guys. Shout out to George Machado, the owner of CEO of PPG Pro Play Tour, or excuse me, Pro Play Games, and there is going to be a PPT Pro Play Tour over in Dallas, Texas this weekend. So shout out to all the Dallas players going over there. I'm pretty sure maybe Colorado, Cali might come through. You know, so the first PPG event was 19 players, and that's pretty decent for, you know, the first PPG event, and such a short notice on top of that. So you know, definitely, if you guys can get over to that PPG event, definitely look into that. And hopefully it gets bigger than 19 players. You know, we keeps growing and keeps getting better and better. Now, coming up, I will have 2 giveaways. One giveaway before the Energon Invitational, and then one going right into the new year as a Christmas present to all my subscribers. Speaking of subscribing, I would appreciate it if you subscribe. Subscribing definitely helps me out in the channel, and it helps you because you get to, you know, if you watch my videos, subscribing will let you see the notifications as soon as I post a video. So that'll definitely be very helpful for me. Like the video if you like my content, and very much appreciate it. That's about it. And let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. To start, we have the melee character Dragstrip. He is from Wave 2. If you could start the game off, you're able to look at the top card of your deck. Most of the time, your opening turn is actually going to be most likely Flip Shockwave or Ratbat. We'll talk about him in a second. But a lot of times, it's nice if you have that orange on top of your deck, because if you have that blue, of course, and you flip, you know, you flip an orange and a blue, you're able to draw 2 cards. So he's pretty cool, and there's other reasons why he's in the deck as well, and I'll be showing that when I get to the battle deck. Then, of course, we have the big bad Major Shockwave. If you don't know what he does by now, in both modes, he's able to look at the top card of your deck at any time, and then when you flip to his alt mode where he's at right now, his 6-17-3, you're able to draw a card from your deck and then scrap a card from your opponent. Your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. And what's powerful about that is not so much the opponent scrapping the card from their hand, it's the fact that the top of your deck is an extension of your hand. Normally with any other deck, you're not able to look at the top card of your deck at any point in time without, you know, a card that says revealing it. This card lets you, it's a passive that's permanent, you know, until he's KO'd. So you being able to look at the top card of your deck, you're able to draw that card whenever you want, so you know you can have that card in your hand, especially if it's not a green and you can't trade another card out of your hand. And then, of course, his bot mode again. While he's in this mode, you may play a Decepticon card off the top of your deck or a secret action. So, very powerful effect. Having your deck as the extension of your hand pretty much is like essentially you drawing a card. So if you flip, if you have his Gamma Launcher or any other one of those cards that you're allowed to play off the top of your deck, that's essentially like drawing a card for your turn, an extra card just for free. And with the release of Wave 4, of course, you know, we've gotten a lot more secret actions and Decepticon cards to play with him. So I feel like just about over half my deck is now, if not half or close to it, is you know, secret actions and or Decepticon cards that I'm able to play off the top of my deck. And then we have Mr. Ratbat. Now, Ratbat is something that I had to look in the database on the Transfomers app. Shout out to the app. Definitely download that Transfomers TCG app. You're able to build decks and characters on there. So it's pretty cool to kind of keep yourself organized. I also write deck lists in my notes on my phone as well while I'm, you know, while I'm at work in between breaks and stuff when I have ideas. But so Ratbat is a 0-10-2 in bot mode, and he actually is not ranged or melee or any of that. He's just a spy patrol. So that's actually very relevant, kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, what would a cassette be? A cassette wouldn't necessarily, can't be ranged because it's not doing anything special. But so he has 2 defense, which is pretty solid. And a lot of times, well, I'll talk about the opening play here in a second, in a little bit. But so his revenge ability is when he is KO'd, it's pretty much an espionage. So you call, and not pretty much it is, you call a battle icon color, then your opponent reveals their hand. If they have that card in their hand, they may scrap it. What's really cool about this is that with the tap ability, you're able to look at the top card of your deck at any time with Major Shockwave, whether you're in bot or alt mode. And there are a lot, when I say a lot, there are a lot of double icon, different icon color cards in this deck. So you're able to heal 1 no matter what automatically on all of your characters. If you flip a 1 card that I'm going to show you, you can actually heal 3. You can heal 3 of off of all of your characters, which I think is very strong. And then he actually ends up being ranged in this mode, which is kind of important for the card I'm going to show you when I get to the deck profile. And speaking of, let's hop right to it. So first up is going to be pretty boring. The card that we know and love that we always need to play when our predominantly blue heavy decks. We are talking about 3 security checkpoint. This card has always been powerful. It gets even better with all the different upgrades like Sturdy Javelin and things like that that came out in this new wave, Wave 4, War for Cybertron Siege 2. So not going to say too much more about that. Of course, great when you flip on defense. Even more powerful, especially in this deck, when you're able to strip a lot of upgrades potentially out of your opponent's hand, and then in conjunction also use it with Shockwave's effect to take a lot of potential good bit of cards out of their hand and leave them with little options. Next up, we have another mainstay card that's not going to leave this deck anytime soon. So this card pretty much reads, I draw a card, you scrap a card, you know, along with Shockwave's alt mode effect. So definitely very good card. It's the only spaceship I have in my deck, but of course, he's the only one that you'll ever target with it. Next up, we have 3 Reclaim. This card is another still mainstay. I played 3 of these in my deck. Fleeing that, I have another Decepticon. I have a couple of more, like 8 extra Decepticon upgrades on top of the Gamma launchers that I used to play. So this card is always going to be good to be able to get any of those upgrades that you need to be able to fit on your Shockwave so you can set up for your overwhelming advantage turn. And definitely can't see myself ever cutting this card, you know, to less than 3. Of course, it's always good to get the Gamma Launcher. If your opponent has 2 cards in hand, you can play Reclaim, stack a Gamma Launcher on top of your deck, then play it off the top of your deck, which counts as your action and your upgrade for the turn. And then also flip Shockwave for your turn and then take another card from your opponent. So definitely very strong. Next up, we have the new card. One of the coolest cards that make this deck work is Wedge Formation. Now, this card was actually, when this card was revealed, I'm sitting here thinking all these different teams where I can, why would it be worth me playing 3 different characters? And then as I looked through all the 6-star characters, of course, Raider Sights came to mind, but Raider Sights, when it turns into a utility, it doesn't have any battle icon color, so that does not help you towards your overwhelming advantage play. But this card is an orange, black, green, so it fits 3 of the criteria for the overwhelming advantage, because remember, you need an orange, blue, a black, a white, and a green icon card. You know, every single icon pretty much we have in the game. So what this card reads is you do each of whatever the effects read on the card based off of how many characters you have on the field. So if you have a melee character on the field, you heal 1. If you have a ranged character on the field, you draw 2. Or excuse me, draw 1. And if you have a specialist character on the field, you may plan 1. So I'm able to get all 3 of these effects. And what's really cool about this is with a couple of different things is going to happen or can happen. So this part I want to show you guys is pretty cool. One thing that you can do also, I play 1 Secret Dealings. I skipped to this card because I want to show this little mini combo. You can play Secret Dealings from your hand, draw a card, and then stack a Wedge Formation on top of your deck. And then now that you know it's on top of your deck, you can just simply tap Rat Bat, reveal this card, and then heal 3. And then on top of that, if the next card on the your deck under this was a blue card, when you attack with Dragstrip that turn, you'll flip this and then you'll have 4 Pierce 1 minimum, and then also that blue card, and you'll be able to draw 2 cards off Dragstrip's effect, which is get you more cards in hand, which is able to push you closer to getting to Shockwave's overwhelming advantage turn. Keep in mind, this deck is not caring if you stop me from trying to get overwhelming advantage. If you're using bashing shields and ramming speeds and enforcement batons to stop me from that, then you're not really probably pushing any damage. So the longer that he gets to, or the longer that it takes to set up, the longer that he's probably still living. And when he's still swinging for a lot. So yeah, Wedge Formation is a definite mainstay in this deck. You can heal up to 4 health even on Dragstrip himself, because Wedge Formation itself lets you heal 1 off a melee character, again, which Dragstrip is. And then if you have another one on top of your deck, you can tap this to heal, you know, 2 to 3 or whatever, and keep your characters alive longer. So definitely a very cool aspect. Next up, we have, for my 2-ofs, we have 2 Catalyst Leadership. Now, Catalyst Leadership is still important, especially against blue decks, which blue did get a big boost, right? So that means that blue decks are going to be out there. Being able, for Rat Bat, you know, being able to heal 3, we got cards like Sturdy Javelin. We got a mainstay like Arm Hovercraft, which has always been great. So they play Arm Hovercraft, and they do all these things, and all your characters have damage on them. You play Rat Bat's effect. You tap him to heal everybody for 2 to 3. Then you can play Catalyst Leadership and then deal, you know, put 5 damage from Shockwave on the Rat Bat. And like, so Shockwave can be fully healed. Rat Bat will be at, you know, whatever. He'll be at 5 after you heal the 3. And then, you know, the next go around, if Rat Bat didn't die, you can untap everybody, tap Rat Bat again to heal again. So this makes your Catalyst Leadership even more powerful and could potentially make your characters stick around for longer. So very cool addition. And of course, it's a Decepticon card. It's white to help with your flips for overwhelming advantage. And that's about it for that one. Next up, we have 2 Scrounge. This card helps you cheat extra actions, or excuse me, upgrades at the top of your deck to get closer to your overwhelming advantage. So being able to play 2 upgrades in 1 turn is very important if you're able to do it. If you have a Terrifying Resilience, spoiler alert, card I'm playing, or a Gamma Launcher in your hand, and then you have one of the other pieces on top of your deck, you could play this as your action for the turn, then play the other upgrade for your hand, and that puts you 2 steps ahead in order to get into your overwhelming advantage turn. So you can actually potentially go do your overwhelming advantage turn on your next turn, since defense, all you have to do is play your last upgrade and then play the overwhelming advantage itself. So definitely really good. It's orange-green, so it's again, this deck is mixed, so flipping these, of course, on attack is always cool, and then it's green, so you're just able to add to your hand. Next up, we have the card itself, to overwhelming advantage. Probably should have saved this towards the end or towards the beginning, but again, it's built around it, but then at the same time, again, I gotta say it again, this deck does not care if it doesn't get it off. Of course it wants to, and I'm going to try to, but if you keep stopping me from it, the deck can actually still win without it, and you know, just do regular flips and attacks and whatever. So this card is, of course, great. Game's probably over if you get this effect off, especially if you can weaken like cards like a mirror match Shockwave, which will actually, mirror match will actually be very hard probably to pull this off, but mirror match Shockwave potentially, or any decks. What I'm getting at is that have a lot of health. So like General Galaxy Optimus, the big Optimus with 21 health. If you can get him down potentially, you know, to deal 6 damage to him and get him down to 15 before he gets any energy packs on, and that's if he's able to, because you know you're stealing their hand. You can potentially just KO him before he really gets set up. And even just in general, dealing 15 to him, even if he does have an energy pack on him, that's a good chunk of damage. But to most other bots, dealing 15 to any of their bots, especially if you go to attack another bot, is going to KO that bot, and they're pretty much done, and the game's probably over. Hence the name, overwhelming advantage. So that's what the deck's built around. I think you only need 2. I don't think you need 3, because especially, it's not like you want to see it ASAP, because you're not going to be set up ASAP. So I feel like you'll be, by the time you see the one, it'll be time to play it. And worst case scenario, potentially maybe you haven't drawn it yet. It is a Decepticon card, so if it is on top of your deck and you were looking to play overwhelming advantage, well, if you did have your Shockwave set up, again, it is a Decepticon card. It has that symbol in the back, so you were able to play it on top of your deck. And then, of course, its first effect, you're able to plan 1 for each Decepticon you have on the battlefield, so you can plan and get them set up. There's also another card in here that helps you plan it to upgrade, and I'll be getting to that soon. But yeah, if you have a character with a white, orange, black, and green, and then you flip those same battle icon colors off top of your deck, 15 damage to an enemy, seems pretty good. And again, that's what this deck is built around, and it has some unique things it can do. Pretty cool. Next up, for our secret actions, we have 2 Sabotage Armaments and Backfire. Space issues is the reason why I'm not playing more. I would play Hidden Fortification, but I'm playing like maybe 24 blues, so it's still a heavier blue deck, but it's not heavy enough to where Hidden Fortification will actually do anything. So Backfire is good because all of my characters are Decepticons. This card is great against those decks that are playing like, you know, extra padding, that are playing attack drones, that are playing you know, whatever. So like decks like Astro Train or Galaxy Optimus or whatever that get really set up and have their character loaded. Even if they have their character with just 2 upgrades, this is a Plasma Burst on their turn. Even if they have their character set up with 1, you know, at worst it's a zap, and you know, at best it could be, I don't know, Galaxy Optimus is fully loaded with 3 utilities, 1 armor, and a weapon. That's 5 damage on their turn that you deal back to a hence name, you know, Backfire. So seems pretty good. And then of course the best action that we've got in wave 4, Sabotage Armaments. It's going to change the game. Scrap your enemies, all enemy weapons when they declare an attack, and you have a defender. So not too much more to say about that. But so there's 3 secret actions in this build. Potentially want to add more, but my last but not least, I have 1 Smelt. This card has been a mainstay in my deck since like halfway through wave 2. Getting it early game is always great. Of course, you don't want to use it on field communicators. You don't want to use it on armed hovercrafts or bashing shields, especially bashing shield. I've seen people play Smelt just because they have an action to play for the turn. Don't be so convicted to play an action and upgrade every turn if you do not have to. Playing this card when your opponent has a, I don't want to say static laser, well, sure, whatever. We'll say static laser of Ironhide and a bashing shield out. There's no reason to play this card, because remember, Smelt, they get to choose what character they scrap the card from. So they'll just scrap the bashing shield, and now what you just did was recirculate that bashing shield potentially into their deck so they can get it back again and then kill your armors in future turns. So I like to actually trap, I call it trapping an enemy's an opponent's bashing shield, because if they're playing 2, especially if they're even playing 1, I've played against players that actually only play 1, and then they I think I did it to Nick too. I think Nick noticed that, and I think he cited in the second one, and shout out to him from the PPG event with the blaster deck. He had just the 1 bashing shield that he played out, and then I got rid of my Smelt for another green, and then his bashing shield was stuck, which meant my armor stuck for the rest of the game. And he put it on Blaster as well, so Blaster was probably going to be the last character I killed. So once he dies, the game is over. So the fact that he didn't have another bashing shield to recirculate back in his deck was very important, and like I said, helped my armors to stick. But of course, this card is good against. This card will actually see a lot more play. I'm actually thinking about playing. I'm not actually. I don't want to say thinking about. I am playing this card actually at 2 or even 3 in some of my decks, because Pocket Processor is going to be an issue, and I won't say an issue, but them having that extra option and drawing those 2 cards, you know, or an extra card every turn can be a big deal. And I'm pretty sure most opponents are going to like to play that card early. So if they play that early and they, let's say like I flip a smelt off the top of my deck, and like in my deck that I'm playing 3 smelts on, I know I'm getting off topic here a little bit, but I do want to talk about this card a little bit more in depth. So let's say I'm playing 2 and I flip a smelt off the top of my deck and I don't get it, but because I have another one in hand. Well, most opponents, I mean, you're just not going to assume that. You're going to assume most players play only 1 smelt. Then they go to safely play their whatever, you know, Pocket Processor or Energy Pack or whatever, and then I blow them out. Not really blow them out, but, you know, get a pretty solid smelt on their on my next turn. So definitely something to think about. Like I said, playing this card to 2s and 3s of. Of course, ramming speed and vaporize are going to be good potentially, but probably going to be side deck. Of course, each smelt versus vaporize in them, you know, of course, they this card has some weaknesses because, of course, they get to pick. But I just think having that greed icon just makes it universally better. So enough about smelt after I had to spend about 2 minutes on it. That's it for the actions. I want to say the actions, that comes out to about 23 actions. Next up for our upgrades, we're going to start with our weapons. We're going to start with Handheld Blaster. This time, I'm actually talking about equipping it. There is a potential turn. For overwhelming advantage, the utility is going to be white-green for the most part. Your armor is always usually going to be black-red, and then your weapon will be blue. So there's actually potential to actually play this if you don't have Gamma Launcher or the other card I'm going to show you in your hand. And then it also has bold 1 as well. So like if you're at a point where you're not able to plan all the cards out your hand, which you should be, you should have enough cards in your hand where when you play your overwhelming advantage turn, you're able to literally just plan your turn out and stack the cards on top of your deck. You don't have to hope. You don't have to play Combat Dagger and flip and just pray that you get the effect. You're planning to 100% just about get the effect, unless they have, of course, Sabotage Armaments or whatever. And then even then, if they have a secret action and you look in their scrap prop, probably just won't play Overwhelming Advantage that turn. So even if they do scrap my weapon, well, then I still have Overwhelming Advantage, and then I just need to find another blue weapon. So yeah, so this is the actual only time that I actually might potentially play this card. I might even be bold enough to play this on Dragstrip to try to draw the 2 cards. Now, it's going to be a seldom case that I do that, but you actually have potential to play this card in this deck, or play it as your upgrade for the turn. But let's be real, most of the time you'll probably just trade it for a green so it can circulate back into your deck. Next up, of course, we have Shockwave's main weapon. We have the Gamma Launcher. Gamma Launcher is powerful. You can put 2 on him, and it's pretty much a permanent, I don't want to say pretty much, it is a permanent grenade launcher because they'll have +4 attack. Now, of course, this card is weakened by Sabotage Armaments, and of course, he'll only be attacking for 7 at that point, but it's okay because he has easy ways to get it back, and at that point, I mean, if their Sabotage Armament, you know, if they do a Sabotage Armaments on you, you know, at the state of the game against most decks, they really don't have a hand to work with, so they'll kind of be top decking-ish, you know, anyway, so it's not that bad. But either way, still great card. Your opponent doesn't scrap a card when you attack or anything, which would be broken. Your opponent scraps the card when you activate the card, so you get value out of it. Yeah, again, you lose the attack, but Shockwave still has 7 attacks, so and you're able to get these back. I don't think it'll be that bad. I say that in theory, though. It could. I'm pretty sure at the right point in the game, it'll be devastating, but... So 3 Gamma Launchers, got to play them. And the other card I was talking about for your blue weapons that you could play, which is also a green, Scoundrel's Blaster. Scoundrel Blaster, of course, is from Wave 2. You can only put on Decepticons. It's also a Decepticon card, so you can play it off the top for Shockwave. And you're able to get Pierce 2 onto an Autobot. So it's actually pretty relevant because I have a couple of black icon cards in here. So that Pierce 2 is going to be relevant more than it used to be because, you know, with cards like, with decks being more blue, heavier blue now, that Pierce 2 is really going to come into effect more often. And then, of course, if you flip any Pierce on the top of your deck, that Pierce adds, and then your smaller characters especially will actually be able to get some damage in. Next up, we have our one-ofs. We have 1 Enforcement Batons and 1 Armed Hovercraft. The Hovercraft is a tech choice. I don't know if it's supposed to be in here. I don't know if I need it in here or not. And especially it's only 1 because on your first turn, you actually potentially want to attack. You actually potentially want to flip Shockwave and attack with Dragstrip or Ratbat actually in this mode that he's in. Because let's say you attack with Dragstrip on your next turn, depending on what cards on the top of your deck, you may potentially, of course, want to play the card off the top of your deck or flip Shockwave and draw that card. Now, if the card on top of your deck is a like Handheld Blaster or a security checkpoint you don't want, then you can go flip Ratbat instead that turn and attack with the Ratbat and get in there. But you know, so it all depends on what cards on top of your deck. But with the fact that Ratbat's not a range character in his alt mode. I chose to only play one arm hovercraft. Of course, arm hovercraft is always still good. I might potentially side two more with Brunt, because I do want to potentially play Brunt. Brunt, of course, is an 11, and it just happens to fit the stars with Shockwave. The only issue I have with Brunt is he has 11 health. Of course, yes, he has tough 1, or your opponent can't have more than bold and tough 1, but the tough 2 won't really help too much. You know what? Let me just stop there. I think it'll be better in a pure blue build, Brunt will, and maybe not in this deck, so I have to find another 11-star character, maybe like Detritus or somebody he's 11. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so only one arm hovercraft, because when I do flip him, if on the off chance I do have this on the top of my deck, or I want to reclaim it and, you know, play the arm hovercraft to get some solid value out of it, I will do that. And then of course the one enforcement batons, it's on color for, not want to say on color, but it's a dual icon card, gives that +1 attack, and then more importantly, of course, it scraps an enemy weapon. So kind of keep your opponent off their weapons. You got sabotage armaments that helps with that as well. So pretty good. And that's it for the weapons. Next up, we have one of the new armors revealed and showed in that came out, excuse me, in Wave 4. We have Terrifying Resilience. This is an orange-black icon card. You cannot put on Autobots, so you can put this on Mercenaries, and of course you can put it on Decepticons. It is a Decepticon card. I think I just said that. If I didn't, whatever. Excuse, don't mind me. But it gives tough 2. So tough 2 is not too great in this deck, but again, your deck is still predominantly blue, so it does help, and it is nice, you know, when you do flip some solid defense. But the most important thing about it, of course, is its icon. It is a orange-black, and this is your armor of choice that you're going to put on Shockwave and to set up for your overwhelming advantage turn. And next up, we have one sturdy armor. Don't know if this card should be in here or not, because you only really want to prioritize having sturdy armor, but it is a green, and of course, you know, with the blue, and if you block against a range character, which range got a lot of health this set, and I see range really rising in popularity. Worst case scenario, if you can't, because this card is not a green, so if you don't see this on the top of your deck and you don't have Reclaim, you're pretty much not going to be able to get this for a while until you, of course, you draw one of those cards, or, you know, you have it on top of your deck. So you can at least have this for, you know, for the moments being, and then you just won't be, you pretty much won't be worried about your overwhelming advantage for that turn. So that's just in theory. I have some games coming up later on with Wads from Mech. Shout out to Mech and his channel. Definitely go subscribe. But yes, just check this deck out in action. I'll have to work out the kinks and see if this even matters. But in theory, I mean, and plus I only have one specialist, so there's that. And then last but not least, we are not playing any field communicators in the deck because I have one specialist, and the single white just doesn't help to cheat cards on top of my deck. And plus, cheating cards off the top of my deck is already built within Shockwave now that Shockwave is able to play more Decepticon cards than ever off the top of your deck, you know, and secret actions. Well, not really. I guess I'm only playing 3 secret actions. But for my utility slot, I am playing Decepticon Crown. This card was a mainstay in, of course, the main deck that it was built, or that it's made for, the King Starscream deck. But this card actually has a lot of value in this deck. It's really cool first turn if you go second, or yeah, on my first turn, your first turn if you're going second, to play this on Shockwave. And if you have a blue on top of your deck and you have a useless orange, or you have an orange like Scoundrels Blaster, or not Scoundrels Blaster, Scrounge, excuse me, or Wedge Formation, you can stack that Wedge Formation or whatever, and then attack with Dragstrip, flip those 2 cards, draw 2, and then Dragstrip will have 4 Pierce 1 going into whoever. And drawing those 2 cards are very important. Then you can like take one of the cards you just drew and trade for that Wedge Formation, add it right back to your hand. So that's a very strong start and play, and very promising. And then of course, when your opponent attacks the attacks your Dragstrip, if he gets, you know, some decent damage on it, you can play that Wedge Formation on your next turn. You can draw a card, heal, and stack one potentially, and then you can also flip Ratbat and tap Ratbat to heal your Dragstrip as well. Now you may or may not do that. You may just attack with Ratbat and wait till the wheel turn to heal Ratbat. But this card is your utility of choice to play and to set up for your overwhelming advantage turn. So this is ideally what Shockwave will have on him when he attacks for the overwhelming advantage turn. You'll have 1 to 2 Gamma Launchers and or Handheld Blaster or Scoundrels Blaster on him, Terrifying Resilience, and then you'll have Decepticon Crown. I think this deck is pretty cool. I want to get some gameplay this week and potentially show you guys. But in terms of deck profiles, I actually have a Optimus Galactic Optimus deck that me and my boy Marie's been working on today. It actually seems very promising. I'm playing a utility that I did not think I would ever play, so I'm excited to also show you guys that deck profile as well. Like I said, potentially try to get some gameplay to showcase to you guys this week or next week. So once again, you know, if you guys like my content, I'd appreciate if you guys like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and it's your first time here, welcome. I appreciate your visit. And like I said, if you like the content, be expecting more. We got a whole bunch more videos to post. Like I said, deck profiles. I want to start doing my interviews going into the new year 2020. But we got the Energon Invitational first. So let's you know, cross that bridge when we get to it. But without further ado, you guys know what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. If you do like this deck, definitely build it and try it out, and tell me what you guys think and suggestions you would make on changing things. I've been thinking about things like maybe spare parts to like play over this, because it's also a white green, and it's a white green. The green is important to have in your hand to be able to stack that white, because remember, on your overwhelming advantage turn, you get natural hand advantage with drawing cards and then playing cards on top of your deck. So you should have enough cards in your hand to be able to literally plan. All you need to stack is I guess we could say, ideally, so these are the only cards you need. So, and that's not hard to do, especially with these all being green icon cards. So you can stack all three of these, or better yet, if you have a blue on top of your deck already, what you'll actually end up doing is just stacking 2. So you're able to plan 3 if all 3 of your characters are alive still. But even if, let's say, you only have 2 Decepticons, don't forget, Decepticon Crown also lets you plan 1. So you could plan 2 and then stack another if you needed to. But let's say you only needed 2. You'll stack the Crown and the wedge formation, or vice versa. It doesn't matter, because you have to flip 2 cards when you first attack. And yeah, so when you flip the 2, you know you're going to flip 2 more because of the white icon card, unless there's a W5 Gyro Blaster. So you'll flip the other 2 cards, and then you'll be able to trigger the effect. You'll have the blue from your 3rd flip, the orange, black, green, and then the white. The extra green is redundant, doesn't matter, but you hit the requirements in order to trigger overwhelming advantage and overwhelm your opponent. So with that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Like I said, build a deck. If you like it, try it out. You know, see if it's it can be pretty solid. And I'm excited for it. I think it has some promise, but we'll see. Like I said, I have 2 other builds of Shockwave that I want to build going into the Invitational. Of course, it's no secret that that's a clear potential choice that I will be playing, potentially playing at the Invitational. And yeah, so with all that, you guys have a great day and or great night whenever you're catching this video. This is S.DefTF heading out. Peace.